Yeah. They say life is what you make it, but for granted don't you take it. And pray to God you last through all the trials and tribulations. And make sure that you calculate the risks that you taking. These the rules of engagement. Just left prison, felt like it was a cruise on the slave ship. Bad food and metal bracelets. Took patience, but I still managed to manifest greatness. It's that KOT ape shit. I walk around with my head up and chest out, cause that's the posture of a black mobster. It ain't a place on this earth I can't go and conquer. A master of world misery. Mix my pain with the beat, it sound like ghetto chemistry, and deaf to anything that wanna hurt me and injure me. Shit going through my mind, and they them crackers sentence me. Never let them finish me. I had to live off memories, but it fueled my dedication to push towards success, cause that's the final destination. A second chance taken, I trust the process, cause every day my hunger grow, I'm really making progress. And I know that's kinda hard for the haters to digest, and I ain't even learned how to use every part of my mind yet. And let that digest, somehow I still managed to grow to a king mindset. I found the answers to some things about myself you ain't find yet. Rewind that. I guess I gotta remind them niggas I'm really that. It's in my DNA. Everything I say is artifacts. He a fly nigga, hope when he died at his coffin match. Learn my lessons from the streets, you can never get too attached. You gon' end up losing things that you never getting back. Either a nigga in the hoodie or the knocks in all black, or a pot of gold at the end of the road. The chances, this beat to the song is the same beat the devil dance with. And I don't give out no passes and second chances, so be mindful of them ice grills and them cold glances. My name and my reputation been in good standing. So much pain in my life, but I'm still standing. You ever bang out with your dog and he leave you stranded? I stayed quiet in the storm, I did not panic. I'd be lying if I say this shit ain't leave me damaged, but I managed to remain silent. And that's more than I can say for you niggas. The gun work on Call of Duty, but I'm never gonna play with you niggas. Let me find out that you niggas satisfied with some in-house pussy and PlayStation. These hoes your safe haven, but I bought a bitch a wig and she gon' drop that location. Let my pistol flare in your face without no hesitation. Now everybody think involved getting called for statements. I'm in another state, cruising down the interstate, on my way to Shrimp and Steak. That's me, Cali and Bay. No niggas can't relate, cause you fake your own whole weight, like paper plates at a picnic. I'm picking instance why I ain't stand tall. Talk for some smut of my name, you know you dead wrong. You know I'm living every single word that's in all my songs. Gang.
Peace, 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 peace. What's going on, man? I want to welcome everybody to another episode of the We Made It Out podcast. Shout out to my lovely wife and co-host, Courtney Long. You understand? Shout out to our sponsors, MRB, Mothers Raising Brothers. Shout out to CC Events, King of the Trenches Clothing. And shout out to all our supporters and everybody that's tuning in. Man. So today, I got a real esteemed guest. A young man that I went to elementary school with. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of been through a little struggle, and he actually, doing something to really bring change and awareness. Not only just to the community, but, to the lawmakers as well. You know what I mean? So, without further ado, I want to introduce everybody to the brother, Mr. Justin Count Sr. How you doing, man?
What's going on, family?
What's going on, beloved? How you doing, man?
Man, every day we wake up is a blessing.
That's right. That's right. So, without further ado, man, let us know your name and your background story, a little bit about yourself.
All right, for those that don't know me, my name is Justin Counts. Grew up in Plainfield. For the most part, graduated from Plainfield High, class of 2002. Shout out to everybody. I ain't seen a lot of people in a minute. Basically, man, I'm just a guy that, lived through a lot of trauma, childhood trauma. Had to navigate life on my own for the most part. And, made it to where I am now just by support, having a strong support system, good mentors around me, and just determination,
Right.
So
But,
I was gonna say, we wanted to get into a little bit about what this episode is about. Is father figures, is breaking cycles and building futures, and so we just wanted to talk a little bit more about, again, Justin,
Okay.
talk a little bit more about. We're gonna talk about where you from, and but I think father figures, breaking cycles and building futures, is really about where a lot of us identify with right now. And so, as you were talking about your childhood, tell us like who you grew up with in the household, mom, dad, and just kind of like your family dynamic.
Yeah, I grew up under 3 generations of Counts men. I was raised by my father, Roscoe Counts. He was the third. My grandfather, Roscoe Counts the second. And I knew my great grandfather as well. I didn't have my mother though, from the age of 2 to basically I think I was 21 again when I reconnected for good. So for the most part, I was raised with my dad. I had a stepmother, but I pretty much ran away from home at like 16, graduated high school, 17, and left to the military. So I pretty much lived with my dad from 2 to 16.
Something that's unique for me is you saying that you were raised by your dad, and you talked about having like, it sounds like, can you tell us a little bit more about your father? Like, what type of man is he, or was he? I know, again, a lot of us aren't raised in the home with our fathers. I feel like men are not even given the credit that's due for the roles that they play. And because men aren't as emotional and don't sometimes put up a fight, they're excluded from the situation. Like, as a woman, naturally, the children come with me. And so it takes a strong man to step up and decide to raise a son. So shout out to your dad. But tell us a little bit more about just like y'all's relationship. I mean, even then and now.
Yeah, it was definitely a different time back then. My father was raised by strong black men, strong fathers, strong men that went to the military. So taking care of your responsibilities was mandatory. Still, those were lessons that, were still around in our households back then. So me growing up like that, I got to see the difference because I was one of the few people that did have a father, and seeing the difference. My father was a firefighter, so I never grew up with food stamps. I never went to a DHS office. We had enough to basically, we never had to worry about what we was gonna eat. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, growing up with a strong black father, I also didn't get the same things that the other kids had. Because he wasn't gonna spend money on what he would consider like frivolous stuff. You know what I'm saying? So I grew up, like Dave Chappelle said, we grew up with just enough money to be broke around rich people. I felt like that a lot of times because, a funny thing about kids in poverty, I would look at other kids and say, man, this kid don't even have a dad, his mom don't even work, but he got the freshest Jordans, you know what I'm saying? My dad ain't buying that, and he got a job, he worked, you know what I mean? so it was confusing to me growing up, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I had them similar experiences.
Yeah, strong.
One thing I remember, for those who don't know, we went to elementary school together. So one thing I remember, your dad was stunning, right? I remember him showing up in uniform. I remember one time he whipped, and that was something that back then they made fun of, but it was something that everybody was lacking at the same time. Because if they had a strong man like your father to discipline them and guide them the right way, a lot of us wouldn't, went the way that we went. And even, some of us did. Like, I still had a father figure and things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
yeah, actually, I grew up with that, strong discipline. My father was a big man, strong. He came and destroyed me in front of everybody in class. But a lot of that, I'm writing my story now. A lot of that was part of the reason why I went the way that I went, the direction that I went, and why I rebelled. Because at the time I was a kid going through trauma, and my father thought he was doing the right thing by giving me that stern discipline, but at the same time he was missing signs, signs where I could have been helped. You know what I mean? So instead, what he meant for good, it ended up being bad.
It's all good. He just lost him for a second. It's all good. But I've had similar experiences. Like I didn't grow up with my mother raised 3 children. I know my father. My father was a part of my life just from a distance. But I think that I can relate to him saying like my mom worked every day. We had enough money that we wasn't, maybe necessarily wasn't raised in like underprivileged community, but Christmas, I had one gift during Christmas. It might have been one box under the tree. And it may be because, somebody from family was also assisting, but like probably contributes to some things that I do, like shopping now. I grew up without. So I know you were talking about, you said something about your dad. Did you say he whooped you or something? And you said you felt like it.
Oh yeah. It wasn't just a whooping. My dad was a firefighter. I forgot what I did. I think I called the teacher the B word. I think it was. And he met me at the class, like right before the bell rang.
I remember.
I tell people this is how I tell the story. If you remember the first Matrix movie, when Neo first encountered the agent in the subway, and he hit him with 1,000 body shots against the wall, that's what my dad did to me. It was so bad. The teacher was like, I am so sorry. I will never call him again.
The teacher felt bad for calling your dad.
Yeah, but he felt bad too, because I don't know if you remember. That day he went and bought me the brand new Grand Hills. Remember they came out that day. He bought me the brand new Grand Hills.
The white with the patent leather blue.
Yeah. So everybody in school was confused. They like, man, you got your ass whooped at school, but then he bought you some brand new sneakers.
I've done that too. Felt bad for disciplining your children.
Yeah, But that's the type of discipline we had though back then, though.
Right. So
yeah, we need it now.
Yeah, for real. So I heard you mention something about some of the discipline that you received was the reason why you rebelled. Can you explain that a little bit? Can you get a little bit of detail of that?
Yeah, I mean, really, I just had a lot of childhood trauma, man, and they didn't understand how to manage me. I grew up in a home with a stepmother that didn't really care for me because I wasn't her child. They had got married and had children together, and I was basically dropped off. My mother was running the streets at the time, so I was an uncomfortable situation. You know what I mean? And it's pretty much I was aware of that my whole life. You know what I mean? And she even stopped me from doing a lot of things that I wanted to do, you know what I mean, that I could have done, just hindered a lot of my greatness, you know what I mean?
Right.
So a lot of my discipline used to come. I'm sorry, what was that?
My fault. We don't talk about that enough. I think people assume that if you have a stepfather or stepmother or 2-parent household, that things are good, right? A lot of us grew up with one parent, and we think that because one parent was absent, that meant that if that parent was present, that things would be okay. But people forget about unhealed or broken relationships that still affect the children. So even though you didn't have mom, and someone else may step in and think, well, you had stepmom, but stepmother ain't like you. So having 2 parents at that time still affected you, maybe worse than somebody who had one, because again, we always think that what we didn't have actually affected us more than it did than if we had it. So I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah. That's a valid point. And in fact, as a 40-year-old man, I've had to go through a lot of therapy, a lot of counseling to break down a lot of things that I do now. It took my wife, to show me certain things about myself, like why do you do these things, or why do you act like this, And I realized, I said, man, I grew up in male dominant society back then. We were real male dominant culture. Everything like was real male oriented. You know what I mean? Having a father, right? You don't get none of that emotional coddling. You know what I'm saying? My dad never said I love you, son. He wasn't to give you a hug, son, give you a kiss, none of that. Like that was gay to him. You know what I'm saying? Like if you had earrings in, like he would call you gay, like that's gay. Flat out. So I wasn't taught that emotional connection You know what I'm saying? I was taught like you don't cry. I was taught like shit, man, don't work, don't eat. Like you got to get out here and grind. You ain't got time for feelings. So I lived my whole life like that. You know what I'm saying? I'm all gas, no brakes. You know what I mean? And that's how I played it in the street too. Like I'm all go because I ain't got time for feelings. You know?
Right.
So
So even though some of the things affected you, do you feel like they also benefited you in a way? Because some of the things that you named at the time sound like you lacked them, but they also taught you some things that some people don't possess today, which, you know, emotions are good at times, but some people are over emotional.
exactly.
Man that don't work, don't eat. I still live by that. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't sound like, you know, even though your dad has some tough skin in the way in which he loved you. I think what I learned as a parent, or what I'm learning as a parent, is it ain't no handbook to this. And I think everybody has a story about who their parents could have been, should have been, would have been. And if you talk to each one of our parents will say the same thing. Well, my mom ain't show me love, or my dad ain't show me love. So that cycle of feeling like we didn't get something that doesn't necessarily, like, that we didn't know we need to give. Because I'm sure my son has some things to say about me as a mom. I feel like I did a good job as a mother. He may feel like no, and my daughter grow up and feel the same way. So, you know, I just think that everybody has their own personal experiences, and it's based off your perception, because even my siblings have a different experience with my mom and dad. We all lived in the same house. We have all the same parents. But if you ask my brother a story about a situation that took place, his perception is different. I'm like, that ain't how that happened. And he like, no, that's how that happened. And it's just like, it's still off of perspective and perception, because what your dad may have done to you in his mind was right, and it made you feel bad. But I know you said that made you have some tough skin and leading up to like your street life. So do you feel like that put you in the streets?
I don't feel like that was the reason that I was pushing the streets 100%. It was just being alone, not understood. You know, it took me a long time to really figure out a lot of things that was going on with my life. You know, I had to go through a lot of therapy, like I said, a lot of counseling, and I realized there was like a lot of untreated diagnoses that, you know, no one never knew what I was dealing with. And then, like you mentioned something, like I never fought my dad for being who he was and what he did, because as a father, I understand now. You know, there is no rule book, there is no manual with this, and we do what we think is best at the time, you know, and he did what he thought was best at the time, right? Because he didn't have all the information that we have available now. You know what I'm saying? I think that if he'd had more information, he would have handled things different. You know what I'm saying? But they didn't understand about trauma. They didn't understand about how much you do need both sides. And I do teach young men a lot of the things that my father taught me, because I see that men need that today, because they have no emotional regulation. Raised by a female, right? They get a lot of coddling. You know, they protect them. You know, so a lot of these young men haven't had to have a fight. You know what I mean? They don't know how to scrap. You know, I tell my sons today, I said, you know, there's no resiliency in y'all, because, you know, y'all don't even do the things that we used to do. We used to play outside all day. You know, as a man, if I wanted to talk to a female, I would have to walk up to her. You know, and if she with her friends, you know, it's a group of her friends, I gotta pull her up out of there. I gotta spit my game. You know what I'm saying? And if I get rejected, I gotta take the walk of shame. You know what I'm saying? But that builds up resilience in me. You know what I mean? Like I learned that early in the game. So, you know, I definitely see the good and the bad. But I tell people, life is about balance. Man. We have to have balance, and that's where both parents come in. There. You know, you have to have a household with the love, the emotion, and that logic, reason, strong discipline, and accountability. You have to have both of those together, working in a cohesive unit, in order to, you know, produce what you're trying to produce in the best possible way. You know, but my life story really ain't about, like, I tell people what happened to me, but I only tell that so that they can understand, like, my journey. You know, to understand like how much I had to do on my own. I had to learn on my own. I became a father. I was young. I was 18. Didn't have no resources in Plainfield. I think I was living on the west side, on Evona, my grandma's house. Couldn't get no jobs. I knew that the only jobs out there was like working at the Pepsi joint. And I'm like, man, I know that ain't about to be worth nothing. So I was like, I'm gonna jump into the military and see what they gonna do for me. You know, they lied to me, of course. They told me I was gonna be stationed somewhere close so I could be next to my son. And they sent me as far away that they could send me. You know, I went to Washington State.
Right.
So, you know, I had to learn a lot through that. You know, and I struggled being a father a lot with my oldest son. But we still don't have a relationship like that, even though, you know, I pay child support, been paying child support his whole life, you know, even though it's like, he know that it subjects me, you know, he know that it oppresses me, rather, I should say, with the amount of money that they take from me. And it's still like, it's hard to mend that relationship after so many years of, you know what I'm saying, being away. So that's what led me to the work that I do now, is because after you've seen so much in life, and you see like this is why a lot of things happen to a lot of people, and why we make the choices that we make,
Right.
and why people do what they do. You know, we got to figure out ways to break the cycle.
Right.
And I found out for me, it was harder and harder because every system that I was getting caught up in, whether it was the child support, whether it was the criminal justice system, they were making it exponentially harder for me to be a father.
Right.
Right. So I noticed that was happening to other young men, because I realized like a lot of young men don't create children just to leave them out there hanging. That ain't the goal really when we do this. Like I know a lot of young men, I see them and I watch them, and then I watch things that happen with their relationships with their mothers, and then you know a lot of things happen. You know, and a lot of times the kids, they just end up being pawns, and we don't get a chance to really like do what they need done. You know what I'm saying? So we try to provide resources for people, man. Try to teach them, give them some better tools. We like to call it, to put in the toolbox. You know what I mean? Because as you know better, you do better. And
So I wanted to ask you, so you said you went to the military, and then so after the military you left, and that's when you went to prison. So I wanted to
yeah,
know what made you, or when did you decide to like change, like, and have this mindset to like, you know, not only this, even like, you know, gather up the strength to help other people as well to prevent them, because you know a lot of people don't. I'm not gonna say that they really don't care, but they're so consumed with themselves that it's hard to find a solution for themselves and then to other people. Because I feel like this point is really like it's monumental, because like you said, a lot of these guys are not good with, a lot of us are not good with the tools that we need to even survive from being in them street environments and being in prison, to prevent other people from
yeah,
going. So I wanted to know like what point in time, like what made you change to go into this direction.
man. It was while I was in prison over 12 years ago now. I was in prison working in the prison hospital. So because I was smart, because I had education and I went to the military and all of that, when I went to prison, I was there for a nonviolent crime. I was only there for 2.5 years. So I was automatically on the lower level, trusted level. So they allowed me to work in the hospital across the street. So it was a prison hospital, but it was still across the street. So I got to leave out of the prison every day, go across the street, you know, and I worked with predominantly women, and, you know, I was able to float around, have more privilege, you know. But at the same time, I'm in there and I'm watching men every day die in prison, like by themselves, men and women. I'm seeing the young boys that look like my little son or my little brother coming in there after getting sexually assaulted, and I gotta listen to them scream all day while I'm mopping. And, you know, I kept seeing that stuff, and it was just hitting me different. You know what I mean? I found out later why it hit me different. I got ADHD, and people with ADHD, like, you kind of feel emotions different and you see things different. So I'm seeing all these men and women in the prison. You know what I'm saying? Suffering. I'm seeing young cats that don't even know nothing, man. They coming into prison, man, 18, 19, man. And they coming in, they joining the gangs, and then they getting assaulted, and their jaws broke, they laid up and they're hurt, and they crying, they don't know what they did wrong. I'm like, man, you broke a rule, man. Nobody taught you this, And I was just seeing the way the game was turning, man, and it was like, it was going away from, we used to have care for our homies and our people that we say that we rock with.
Right.
And it was turning to what it is today, where it's like no loyalty, no trust, no, you know what I mean? Don't nobody mean you good. And what really made it happen for me was, I'll never forget this old brother. When I first met him, I always used to look at the men's tag before I entered their room, right, in the hospital, because I used to clean their rooms. And I would look on their tag to see what level he was on, because I'm about to go in their room and I'm going to be by myself, you know what I'm saying? And like you, I'm only 5'7", you know what I mean? I'm 240, but still, back then I was like 225. And some of them guys is like giants, you know what I'm saying? So I would always look at their tag and see what level it was on. And this dude, he was level 5, and the picture was young. He was like 20, swagged out, in the picture. And when I opened the door, there's an old dude, man. He like 70 years old. So it threw me off. I'm like, damn, how long you been in here, huh? He like, man, I've been here my whole life. And I'm like, damn. Me and him got cool. Unc was a cool old school player. He tried to escape 3-4 times. He would always tell you, he would always sing to the women in his wheelchair, be singing, smooth old school player. And he would always say to me like, yeah, young, my out date coming soon, man. And I'd be like, yeah, Unc, you about to get up out of this joint? He like, hell yeah, I'm about to be up out of here. They don't even need to. And I'd be like, that's what's up. I know I can't wait to get up out of here, man. I know you're happy in the mind. Right. And he like, yeah, man, And I go about my business and stuff. And then the lady like, man, you ain't going nowhere. Chill out. You ain't going nowhere. So Unc passed away, right? All of a sudden. And then it hit me. I said, damn, he was celebrating the day that he was gone. Because then he was finally free. He had been down that long. And a constant pattern that would happen to me, guys like him would always look at me and be like, you ain't supposed to be here. Go home. So that never left my mind. You know what I'm saying? Seeing those brothers die in there, you know what I'm saying? And hearing them all of them. I mean, I would have some of the hardest gangsters be like, man, you ain't supposed to be here. What you doing here? Like, go home, bro. You playing. Like, go home. So I use that as the motivation. You know what I mean? And after coming home and struggling, like trying to get a job, working, and child support taking 55% of my check, I was trying to stay focused. I had got married to my wife. She had 3 teenage children, with the oldest being like 17 when we got married. And the youngest, I think, was 14. So I had 3 children of my own, one in New Jersey, one in Seattle, and then one here in Michigan. So I had a lot of responsibilities that I really wanted to grind for and really wanted to take care of, but every step of the way I was getting denied. You know what I'm saying? Nobody's wanting to give me these opportunities. But I kept pushing, I would do whatever I could, you know what I'm saying? I even was the Easter Bunny one year, you know what I'm saying? I did an Easter Bunny for $12 an hour under the table, like, and I would show like my parole officer and people around like that I'm willing to do anything, you know what I'm saying, to make sure my family eat. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't care what I gotta do. So I always kept that mindset, man. And then I started to become an entrepreneur because I realized, like, man, the government gonna take half of what I have anyway. So the only way that I can eat is if I make an income for myself. So I started building connections in China, started learning that game, and became an entrepreneur, opened my first business. And I just took off from there, man. I just never looked back. So I use my own personal experiences to teach people, because I think that was my purpose, you know. So I never blame my father or my mother for how I was raised, because I know that that was part of my journey. You know what I'm saying? I had to go through all of that. I had to experience all of that because I'm a visual person. I'm a visual learner, and once I see it, then I feel it. See what I'm saying? So I can help the brother that's going through child support because I know what it's like, and I can help the guy that just come home from prison because I got 4 felonies, and now I work as I'm a veterans case manager for a major nonprofit here. So I work in a major nonprofit with white folks every day, you know, with 4 felonies still on my record.
What's the name of the organization?
Huh?
What's the name of your
It's called Community Action Agency.
So
it's one in every state.
So the Jackson Strength Network is something that you came up with on your own.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the Jackson Strength Network and how how you envisioned it and how you actually played it.
Man, basically the last 5 years I've been working for various nonprofits. I started off working in the criminal justice space with a nonprofit called Nation Outside that was started by a bunch of brothers from Flint, Michigan. You know, they was going through the water crisis and all of that, but it was even worse for our guys that was in the prison. You know, so they started that organization to advocate for the guys in the prison that was, suffering. So I joined up with them. They had created a chapter for my city, and that's how I started my justice advocacy work. And then I went through all of the major nonprofits around, just working for different agencies, picking up different skills. I think just being from Jersey and all of the things my father taught me, it just gave me a unique advantage over here because, in the Midwest, people are a little slower. They move a little slower pace, so it was different to see a black man that know how to type, that know how to talk, that's not really something that they see often here. So I was able to take advantage of that, you know what I mean? And I started to see that, they actually giving opportunities to guys with felonies now, especially under the Biden administration. Under the Biden administration, it was gravy. I was getting all types of jobs and checks for different things, and they just want to hear you speak at different places, and you get a check to show up. So I was starting to see that, so I was like, man, I got to take advantage of that, and then show other guys how to take advantage of it. Right. And that's basically how I got into this, because I started seeing other major white nonprofits. They would take advantage of brothers like us, and what they would do to us is they would dangle a check in front of us because they know we need the funds, and then they would get us to do what they want us to do, you know what I mean? And then behind the scenes, they getting big grant money to do that. You know what I'm saying? So I realized that these people be pimping us out that way because they had used me during the pandemic, to push the vaccines in the hood, to push all different type of, different stuff. And they would say they would use these disguises they're doing it for good, doing it for this cause or this cause. And they would always hand out a lot of money. So they would give people $100 gift cards just for coming to an event. They'd pay me $2,500 just for throwing an event. So I would see how they would dangle this money. And then just recently, a lot of jobs started coming down the pipe. I would start getting offered these jobs, prison reentry specialist. And I would look, the salaries is $80,000 a year, $100,000 a year, full benefit package. So I'm like, dang, if they getting it like that, why can't we get it like that? Right. You know what I'm saying? Why can't it be an organization led by us for us? You know what I'm saying? I'm like, it can really. So I started watching some of the other brothers and sisters here that I knew that was actually out here making moves like that. And I'm like, man, I can do it too. So that's how I started Jackson Strength Network.
So I got a quick question, because one of the most recent events that you did was around fathers. I think you guys did a Father's Legacy.
Yes.
And you went out and you guys celebrated fathers, which for me, again, I don't think y'all get enough credit. So what drove the idea for this. I know you speak a lot about your father, and then I know you take pride in being a father. How did that event turn out, and what drove you guys to actually decide to celebrate fathers? Because we hear about mothers all the time. We don't hear about fathers.
Yeah, that was an amazing event, man. We're in a small market, but we still had a great turnout, man. We were able to give away 50 Father's Day gifts to 50 fathers. We had over 177 people there, kids. We had rented a gaming truck that pulled up with like 8 gaming systems, all the TVs loaded. We had a couple mascots and community partners. But the idea of the event came behind, really, in this town, it's really like a close-knit family kind of town where everybody kind of related to each other. And every year, the women actually do like a cowgirl brunch type deal where they celebrate motherhood. And I thought, like, man, how come the brothers don't have that? And I would call, like, some of my guys in the hood, and they'd be like, man, I don't rock with this dude. I don't mess with this dude. Like, yo, we got to worry about this guy. We got to worry about these people don't like each other. So I was like, man, we can't do nothing together. So I was like, let me show them how to do it, And while I show them, I was like, I'm going to show them something different, So the idea of the event was to, for one, break the stigma behind fatherhood. A lot of people really don't know that. In all actuality, Black fathers actually spend more time raising their children than any other race by demographic, by stats. We spend more time raising our children. We show up. So that's statistically speaking. So you go look those numbers up. It's a fact. Black men spend more time raising their children than any other race. And that's because, it's easy to understand systemically. The white man has a career, so he spends most of his time working his career. He works 60, 70 hours a week, you know what I mean, in his career field. The Chinese man, he the same way. He work all the time. He worked 2-3 jobs. Mexican man, he worked 2-3 jobs. The Arab man, he worked 2-3 jobs all day, and it's really the woman's place to raise the children. The Black man, though, we're not getting those type of opportunities, so we don't get to work those 2-3 jobs. So we systemically actually spend more time with our kids because we raise them, especially in places like where I live. Where I live here, pretty much if a woman has a child, she can get an apartment for free. DHS will give her an apartment. She ain't gonna have no money. Her rent be $8. And because this is a very mixed town, so it's white and black, live together, right? Like next door. You live like very integrated here.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad you said that. I don't mean to cut you off, but I always say, a lot of times women are surviving because there are more resources for women. There aren't a lot of resources for men. And typically, if you have a child, then that child gets you in the door. Tax time, you got write-offs. You're getting food stamps, Medicaid, because you gave birth to a child. If the Black man is struggling at any point and he needs assistance, what does he do if he does not have a child? He got to go out there and figure it out. So, again, just having those opportunities for Black men is really important. Just men, fathers in general, because again, it's not a lot of support for you all. So,
and that was one of the main reasons why we started Jackson Strength Network, because we was really based upon 5 pillars, 6 pillars actually. But it started off as just a men's group, a men's support group, because I seen that a lot of young men didn't have male figures to be around, talk to, give them good advice, give them good guidance, teach them discipline, accountability. So I was like, man, we need a space, man, where men could be men, where they could talk, they could share their feelings, and not have to worry about nobody clowning them, or if they need something, they can ask. They ain't got to worry about nobody, talking about them or nothing. So we did that first, and it was the men's group actually that helped me plan the Father's Day group, the event, and we did that as a group. You know what I'm saying? But that turned into and we can spread this out and help more people. But one of the main things that we do with our fatherhood program is family reunification and teaching fathers how to be better fathers, giving them the skills that they need to be better fathers, because we understand.
I was just gonna ask you about that because I was in prison for 17 and a half years, and I was estranged from my two. So I wanted to know, like, what would your advice be for like someone getting out of prison, trying to re-enter their child's life? Like, you know what I'm saying? What kind of advice would you give them?
The best thing that you can do is just stay consistent. So you might send a lot of text messages out that don't get responded, but send them out. Because I think one of the biggest things that I didn't do was stay in contact as much as I should have, because of all of the different.
Oh, we lost him, but that's a good point that he made in terms of being consistent. I think we've heard that a couple of times. We've heard that several times, which is remaining consistent. Because I mean, you have children, you know, especially when they become teenagers and young adults. Sometimes they become their own person or people, and they decide to do things. And sometimes it feels like you're reaching out and they're not being responsive, or they don't want to hear from you, or you feel like they don't love you no more, and that's not the case. So being consistent, that's a good one. I think that goes for all fathers too, or parents in general. It's just like if you're not getting that love back, then just stay consistent. They'll come around. One thing your kids do is they always come back.
Yeah. As long as you stay consistent.
Me personally, that's something that I kind of struggled with back home. While I was in there, I maintained good connection with my children. But I guess and another thing too is the unknown, right? I mean, I guess everybody has an idea of what you think it's going to be like once you get released. So I feel like children have the same thing, or you and your children and your family like expectations are not met in the same way that they meant, then it's a disconnect. So
oh yeah, I definitely understand that, because children don't always understand, and especially when you live in another state, you know what I'm saying, and you have all these systems, child support, like Ms. Long, like you said, there is no building that we can go to for men to get assistance. Even as a married man now, with child support taking 55% of my income.
Child support taking 55% of his income. My goodness. I would say it's a gift and a curse to me with child support. I think you were saying that child support is taking 55%, and I was just saying, for me, child support is like a gift and a curse. It's like kids need support, yes, but as you mentioned, you don't even have that relationship with your child, so you're having to support a child that you can't even interact with, in a sense. I think that's when it becomes challenging. So you can go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, there's a book from Michelle Alexander. It's a Black woman. She's an amazing woman, but she wrote a book called The New Jim Crow, and she talks about the child support system and how it's actually detrimental to us. It's meant actually not to help children. It's actually meant to help the social services recoup their money. So a lot of times in my life, I went through situations where trying to reconnect with my kids, but when you have all of your income taken away from you and you're trying to do better, they leave you with no choice but to turn to the things that having no resources and no other way. A lot of men like me, you end up rebelling against the system because you still have to be a father. You still want to support. I would remember going through times where I would have over most of my money taken, and then you get birthdays come. They don't buy birthday presents with that money. You still have to buy birthday presents, and if you don't buy a birthday present, then you get made out to look a certain way. So going through those type of things and seeing like all of these systems and how they affect us men, and how they made as actually to be literal knees on our necks, oppressing us. I started seeing that, and other people started seeing. You start to see more lectures and people talking about these things, And you see how much it's oppressing so many different men. And you see how it was made by design to keep us this way so that we can't excel, you know. So I try to teach young men like different ways to overcome that, you know, how we can manage that and manage life living like that. That's one of the biggest reasons why I hustle so hard, because I have to make up for all of this money that they take away, right? Because I still got kids here. I still have a wife and family here that I have to provide for. So I have to make a way. So we got to figure it out. But why does it have to be that way, right? It don't have to. So that's why I created Jackson Strength Network. And not only do we help men, we help women. We're going to help women reunify with their kids when they come home from prison, different things like that. So that's the mission, man, and I can't wait. It's just getting started. So I want to do this and show other people how to do it. So I'm going to be reaching back to y'all, because really we got to have ownership in something right now. That's the way to go. You know, they're not giving us opportunities. So I've learned that you got to make your own opportunity. And this is the way to do it, through a nonprofit. You get the best tax benefits by opening a nonprofit. If you file the full 501c3 full, you'll get the absolute best tax breaks and tax benefits that you ever seen. So that's the way that I'm going. It's the long way and the hard way, but you got to use the AI, man. It's leveled the playing field for us, to where there's nothing known in the known universe that I don't know now, because I got that information at my fingertips, and I teach people how to use that to take that up for your advantage. You know, start you some businesses, start some nonprofits, man. You know, there's a woman I follow here who came home from prison, and she started a nonprofit called Partial to Girls, and she gives girls free baby formula and diapers when they need it. You know, she does monthly giveaways, gives them, you know, and so I started seeing people do stuff like that, and I'm like, how do they do that? And they started telling me, like, man, we just write grants, man. We get these grants, we do it, and then we can do what we do. So I said, that's how those people have been paying me all of these years to do what.
That's all right. That's good stuff, and it's exciting. You know, we know about the nonprofit world, and as he mentioned, it's a lot of great benefits. And I think we came up with Mothers Raising Brothers. That was personal to me, because I was raising my son, and there weren't any resources for me as a woman. From a lot of situations I went through, which is I watched my son's father get murdered, and I ain't have no resources. I understand counseling. I didn't know I was depressed. I didn't know what I was doing raising a son. I think as women, we take pride in raising our kids, but my son needed his father. I don't care what nobody say. I don't know. There's a lot of things I don't know about being a man until I became a mother, until I became a wife. I didn't start understanding anything about men. And I think once I started understanding men, it helped me have better relationships with the men around me, including my husband, including my son. Still trying to figure some stuff out, but at the same time, women don't understand men. And men a lot of times don't understand women. Y'all know the parts about us to say we're emotional, and things of that nature. Like, we could talk about the negative, but it's a lot of positive things. And what I learned about men is the part of men that kids need too is the non-emotional part sometimes that strictly gets to business. Not that you can't hug your kids and love them. I'm not saying that, but I think women sometimes we can be so overly emotional, and men can just be non-emotional. But that balance kind of creates like a stable, sound person. And I think we miss that. So when women talk about men being emotional, it's because they were raised by a woman who's emotional. You know. And so,
I'm glad you said that. I was going to say that because sometimes I've heard certain women say, like, when a man or a young man expresses himself, he's being emotional, but they forgetting the part of us being human. We're still human. The only thing is that the man is supposed to be able to have a hold on his emotions and deal with them the right way. That's the only difference. But I feel like a lot of time young men and men as well get damaged from women telling them that he's emotional. And then now you don't have an outlet to express yourself. So now you're going to rage out. You understand what I'm saying? So I feel like that's very important. But Justin, I wanted to ask you to transition a little bit. What's one thing that you want your children and everybody to remember you for?
I want to say just about how hard I work. You know, how hard I work to make up for the things that I've done wrong in my life. You know, want them to understand that responsibility that I take for all of the things that I did wrong. You know, I've done better every time with every child, every generation now. I'm a grandfather now, so every time we get better, we grow. Teach people to do better. You know what I mean? So I think that they'll see that with me, you know, and they'll know what's up.
Right.
Shouts out to you too. Us grandparents, we looking younger and younger. You know, we got two boys that's 3 months apart. So, you know, people like y'all grandparents, we like, yeah, we had our kids when we was 19, you know. Musa had his sons when he was 19, I had my son when I was 19. So now they popping, and so they popping out babies, and you know, so shouts out to you, Grandpa. What you want your grandchild to call you? What do they call you?
Papa.
Papa. Oh, all right. That's Musa.
Right. So where do you see the Jackson Strength Network in the next 5 years? Because I personally myself, I feel like it's dope, man. You know, a lot of times we go through those situations, and then, you know, sometimes we get so happy with being out of them. A lot of people don't look back or don't know how that looks. So I want to commend you for even, you know, coming up and actually following through. You know what I'm saying, with the Jackson Strength Network, and I want you to tell me what's going to be in the next 5 years.
Man, I'd be remiss to say that the reason why I got into this is because of my mentor, man. I got a.
That's all right. Once he get back on too, we can ask him how the people can reach him. We want to make sure that everybody that doesn't know him, we know the people who are connected to him that are connected to us. But for people who don't know him, we want to make sure that they have you know, his platform.
I don't know why I kill him. Yeah, but my mentor, man, he did 15 years in the joint for a murder that he didn't commit, and he got let out due to his good behavior, but he never got exonerated, so he on parole for the rest of his life, and he became a criminal justice advocate. So he really mentored me and pushed me into this game. So with that being said, I see this being a major force within the next 5 years. I see this being something that we can replicate in every city. So it could be a Plainfield Strength Network. It could be a New Brunswick Strength Network. It could be a Piscataway Strength Network. And everything that we do it to replicate in every city. I took a lot of lessons from the Muslims and Malcolm X movement. I took a lot of lessons from the Black Panthers and their movement, you know, and I just studied a lot of those movements and said, how can I, one, water this down to make it look less aggressive, you know what I'm saying, and actually add more diversity into it, right? Because I knew that if I came with something that was too aggressive and too pro-black, that it wasn't going to get the support. Right, this is the birthplace of the Republican Party, Jackson, Michigan. So I got to be careful how I move like that, right? And I seen that about those movements, that the reason why they didn't survive is because they were too aggressive, right? So I said we got to be more diverse, more inclusive. So I created a system where it sounds like, you know, this is for everybody, and that's what I made. This is for everybody, and we move as one unit. So this is something that we can replicate everywhere and build up people in every city. So we could literally take this pattern and just copy and paste every city we go. And that's what I want. And I see this being an organization that employs at least 200 people. I want that to be the goal for us in 10 years. And we're going to see it happen.
And how can people reach out to you if they want to connect with you regarding your nonprofit? I want to also make a point that you mentioned about having a mentor. I think everybody needs a mentor. We often think we can do it on our own. You got to have a partner. You got to have a team. You got to have a business partner. But you got to have somebody that you look up to that's successful. So that I don't believe in hanging around a bunch of people that can't teach you anything. And so usually a mentor is somebody you can mimic. Copy. You want to be a copycat, get you a mentor, but let it be somebody that's on the next level, or that's where you're trying to go. So but yeah, how can the people reach out to you?
They can find me on Facebook, man, Justin Counts. They can find me on any platform, basically, Justin Counts. We also have the website, jacksonstrengthnetwork.org. You can find us there. as well. Reach out, support the mission. And any way you want to connect, man, I'm available.
Yeah, that's dope, man. We appreciate you, man. I definitely want to commend you, man, for the work that you're doing, because it's definitely something that's necessary. You know, not this we created this platform because, you know, we made it out. Some people may think it's self-explanatory, but it's not just making it out of prison. It could be making out. It's basically making it out of a mindset and mentality. You understand what I'm saying? And you're doing just that. So I want to commend you, man, because, you know, I've been in them places, and I understand what we need when we get out. You know what I mean? Through personal experience, you know, and the community as a whole too. So I definitely want to commend you for what you're doing, man. It's a great thing, man. And that's why I wanted to have you on, man, to shine some light on it, man, and you know, to be a part of it and let the people be aware of you know, what's going on, because this is greatness going on, and people need to understand what's going on, and they need to know who you are and know your work.
Yeah.
So we definitely appreciate your time, man.
Appreciate it, man. This is the God's mission, man. This is what he gave me to do. When I sat in that cell, I asked him to save my life, man. When he put me on my knees, he said, I'm going to use you. Right. So this is how he chooses to use me. I tell people that I ain't nothing special, you know what I mean? Because I know that with all of the odds that stacked against me, you know, I was a crack baby. I wasn't supposed to be here. You know, I lived in the incubator for the first 3 months of my life. So I know I wasn't supposed to be here. You know what I'm saying? Like the fact that I made it through all of these years by myself, I know I ain't supposed to be here. You know what I'm saying? In all the different states.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Talking some good stuff.
Yeah, that was dope. That's dope. We probably gonna pop right back in. But
Go ahead, wait.
There you go.
I just know that it's a reason that I'm still here. You know, he got a mission for me, so I just try to be the vessel, man, and try to remove myself, but tell people, hey, this is the mission that he gave me, man. I'm just doing what he told me to do.
That's right. That's right. We appreciate you, man. We appreciate you for coming on, man. Next time we gotta come in person, man.
We're gonna start coming in person.
Yeah, we got to. We gotta start. You know what I'm saying?
All right.
There you go.
Get it out.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Peace, God.
Next time we gotta do it in person, man.
Yeah, man. We gotta do it one time, man. I'm coming out there to visit, man.
You come
to Michigan? We could do either one.
All right. So 2 trips. We will do it twice then.
All right. Y'all would love Detroit, man. Detroit is so black and beautiful, and it's vibrant. It's popping.
Yeah.
Sounds like a plan.
But yeah, man, I wanted to say, man, it was a hard road, man, but you know, fortunately, man, we made it out, man.
Yes, sir. We made it out, man. It's good to see you too, bro.
See you too, beloved. I appreciate you, man. Thanks for spending some of your time with us, man.
Yes, sir, man. You keep shining, man.
For sure, man. Shout out to the Jackson Network. Shout out to my beautiful wife, my co-host. Shout out to Mother's Day, man. Shout out to all our supporters, man. Thank you for having us, man. Appreciate you, beloved.
All I have in this world is my balls and my word, and I don't break them for no false plans.
Yeah.
That piece of shit up there, I never liked it.
I think it's about time a real nigga speak up. You lames can't keep up. I see your anxiety. I'm so high off this life, it got me battling sobriety. Niggas ain't really trying to be, but I'm 50 like the unit of the game. I am a student. I'm not easily influenced, and I really live my music. Have you ever seen an Uber drop off at a trauma unit? I could make a few arrangements. Wasn't married to the streets, now it was more like an engagement. So I played with her. But the one thing that I learned about that bitch is you can't stay with her. Man, I started hearing whispers, all the shit I used to say to her. Discussing old drug deals and shootings. I put pain in. I'm the reason they gangs started recruiting. These niggas trifling. First they say they love you, you drop your guard and they put that knife in. They leading with betrayal. But you won't get the chance, I hope you feeling me, no braille. Cause I could kill you in broad daylight and still wouldn't leave a trail. These niggas willing to do anything to stay up out of jail. But I was born with integrity, keep a whole lot of weaponry. Some people think I'm arrogant, but I'm walking in my destiny. Niggas sick and they hating, but I'ma kill these niggas with my success and premeditation. And it's crazy how I really got stronger in isolation. You know I had to persevere, nigga. You know your vision be the clearest right after you shed them tears, nigga. It ain't on me, it's inside of me. You don't know the violence that it took just to humble the beast inside of me. And I know niggas that don't play baseball, but they'll slide for me. And you can't call yourself my brother if you don't ride for me. Nah, gang.
I never trusted him. For all I know, he had me set up and had my friend Angel Fernandez killed. But that's history. I hear he's not. Do you want to go on with me? You say it. You don't? Then you make a move.